This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 639 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, maker of Summer Games and Summer Games Plus electrolytes. Beat the heat with Summer Games. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today, a little something different. As many of our listeners are aware, we recently completed a fencing project at the distractingly beautiful new Ocala, Florida Command Center for the Horse Radio Network. Well, we couldn't have done it without the help from the fine folks over there at Field Guardian Fencing Systems. In this final installment, we bust some fencing myths and then spend a little time on the strange, odd, or downright dangerous stories we've heard involving fencing projects. Folks, you cannot make this stuff up. But first, let's hear from our sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products, maker of Summer Games and Summer Games Plus electrolytes. How is Summer Games different from other electrolyte products? Summer Games Plus contains the same electrolyte formulation as Summer Games Electrolyte, which was originally formulated for the horses competing at the 1996 Olympics. The formulation was based on the results of research conducted in anticipation of the Games, which were held in Atlanta, Georgia, known for its hot, humid summers. Summer Games mimics the composition of equine sweat, supplying the horse with the exact amounts and ratios of electrolytes relinquished in sweat. Summer Games Plus contains no sugar, like many popular commercial electrolyte supplements. Summer Games Plus also contains a buffering agent that helps create a soothing gastric environment. This is especially important for horses subjected to the stresses often related to top performance, such as exertion, transportation, and unfamiliar stabling atmospheres. Ask for Summer Games and Summer Games Plus electrolytes at your local tack and feed supplier or visit kppusa.com. Now, on with today's tip.
This is Glenn the Geek back with Coach Jen here, and we're doing part 4 in our fencing series. And if you missed the first 3 parts, please go back and take a listen. Go to horsetipdaily.com, and you'll find them listed on there and listen to the first 3. It would be better for you to listen to these in orders. And we really did talk about everything involved with electric fencing and tape fencing and poly rope and how it works and the chargers and all of that stuff that you know nothing about, yet you still go out and buy it and you hope you did it right. So hopefully that this little series will help you with that. But in this final part that we're doing with Jason from FieldGuardian.com, who Field Guardian is the fencing system that we used at the headquarters here of the Horse Radio Network.
The distractingly beautiful
headquarters in Ocala, Florida. We wanted to talk about some of the misconceptions about fencing and electric fencing and some of the things that people have done. And I know, Jennifer, you've started a list over there.
Yeah, well, when it comes to home fix-up projects, there's always fun stories. And you had mentioned this when we were off before we started to record. Jason, have you ever had somebody or heard of somebody trying to create an electric fence for livestock of any sort by connecting it to the 110 line in their house?
Directly?
Yes, we have.
Gosh.
Many people try to do that, and they figure if it was good enough to power a lamp, it was good enough to shock an animal. And that's a bad thing to do.
How about good enough to kill an animal or a person or anything else that lands on the sucker?
Well, they're okay for birds and that sort of stuff, but anybody staying on the ground touching it, it's a bad shock. The reason why you can't let go of it. The intermittent chargers we have nowadays have a pulsing one shock every second. But hooking it straight to your 110 line, it's a constant voltage and it's very dangerous.
Well, yeah, when you get shocked, anybody that's ever touched anything or seen anybody that gets shocked, they can't let go. Your muscles basically stop and you just can't let go.
That's correct. Yeah, it's very dangerous.
Wow, that's just crazy. And I'm sure I wonder how many animals have died that way. Now, they used to make chargers that were a constant shock.
They still do, but they're really hard to find, and it's difficult to purchase one of those nowadays.
And don't do it.
Don't do it. There's no need to.
Okay.
Now, they were manufactured years ago. Was it a case of at that time we didn't realize how they could be dangerous for, kids grabbing hold of them? Or was it a case of economics that they were easier or cheaper to make in the day?
Basically, it wasn't known about the dangers of it. And what happened was many stories came about of cattle dying. Cattle in crossings, creeks and everything, stand in the creek and will touch a constant charged fence. And because they're in water and they're grounded out super well, they end up dying.
Oops.
They get tangled up in it. It's just not good. And so a few lawsuits about that have really curbed people's appetite for manufacturing a product like that. And so technology is better now. The low impedance chargers are really good, and they put out a lot of shock very fast. But the pulsing is the best way to go. A pulse charger is the way to go nowadays.
There you go. That's simple and straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So go with the kinds that make the little tick-tick noise.
Yep, one tick every second.
Tick-tick every second. Now, electricity can be a confusing topic for many of us, and I'm amongst them. Explain to us making a circle with your electric fence.
Most people have the incorrect notion that when your hot wire comes out from your charger, that it has to come back to the charger again, and that's a fallacy. The hot wire just needs to go out, and it can stop wherever it wants to, however far from the charger it needs to be. The circuit closing comes when the animal touches the hot wire, the current goes through his body into the ground, and back to the grounding side of the charger. And so that's where the circuit being closed comes in. But one of the things that people do often is they run the hot wire out, and they bring it back to the charger, and it doesn't work correctly. So that's a no-no.
So if you do that, if you make a circle, which you shouldn't, take the hot wire that plugs to the little red side of your charger all the way around and then back again, A, that's going to damage your charger, and B, will it shock somebody or something that touches it? Well, does it shock the animal at all? What happens?
It will, but not very well.
Not very effective?
It doesn't produce like it's supposed to. It's not as effective, and it's just one of the things we don't even talk about what it does do because you don't want to do it at all.
Oh, there we go. There we go. That's better.
Just don't go there.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like on MythBusters when they do certain things they're not allowed to show you.
That's right. Just don't do it, people. Do it the right way.
What is the most interesting critter that you've had folks fence in with your fencing at Field Guardian?
We were talking about funny stories with fencing, and I thought of one that was a couple of years back. We had a lady calling in, and she wanted to install an electric fence inside her cabinets in her kitchen to contain or prevent rats from coming through certain.
No way.
And we spent hours and hours trying to build her an electric fence system that would fit into her cabinet, that would work with alternating hot and ground wires, and how to hold it up inside the cabinet with little glued together sticks of plastic that could be moved around the plates and dishes and stuff. And we thought she was joking at first, but she was dead serious. And we spent hours trying to help her out, and I think it was like a $50 order by the time it's all said and done, but she was as happy as could be that she was able to shock rats in her cabinet.
Oh
God.
my gosh. That's
okay, I think there's other methods, isn't there?
A lot better methods, but that's what she wanted to do, and the customer's always right, correct?
I would have been willing to bet a lot of money that nobody ever tried to use electric fencing on a rat population.
In the house.
In the house, in the cabinets.
In the cabinets in the house. Wow.
Can you imagine just reaching in there to get a plate out and go...
Yeah.
You could use that for teenage boys getting to the refrigerator too often.
You could, yeah.
You could use
Sometimes
that.
people get so frustrated with something that they get obsessed, and they're going to do it no matter if it's a smart idea or not. That's probably the funniest one that I can think of.
That's hilarious.
I guess it won't keep the rat off of our front porch, or the snake off of our front porch, will it?
No, probably not.
Probably not.
No,
Probably not.
no. The snake keeps the rats off the front porch. So.
That's true. So we do not have to get an
We have a
electric fence
snake that lives on our front porch, a black racer snake, and everybody says, "Oh, you can't do anything with that. It's good. It keeps it." It lives on our front porch. It's like, okay, nobody will come to the house anymore.
We will not have door-to-door salesmen.
No, that's true.
No?
That's true.
The post
Jehovah's
office-
Witnesses will take one look at that, and they'll be out of here.
Nobody will deliver packages?
Well, what else? What other misconceptions did we have there about fencing? Well, there was a couple of others. Oh, what was the one that we wanted to talk about?
I have on here, when you splice fencing,
Oh, yeah.
they make little gadgets to splice fencing together, like with tape. But how do you properly splice fencing? Because I've seen some pretty exotic, not Boy Scout approved knots in the fence.
It's probably not better to knot a fence if you have one of those new buckles that are made for tape. The thing about a connection or a splice is you try to minimize them at all possible. Try to build your fence or lay it out so you don't have splices, which you're going to happen sooner or later. And the goal of a good splice is to make good, solid contact on both sides of the splice. And in tape, we talked about those little tiny wires that run through the tape. We need to have good contact to get the current to flow through both sides of the connection. So we provide a little buckle that touches all 15 or 12 or 13 wires on one side of the tape, transfers the power to the other side of the tape. And so knots, when you knot it up, they may or may not touch. The wires may not touch from both sides, and therefore you'll have a drop in voltage right there because not all the voltage is going through. I mean, you want 3 or 4 strands rather than all 12 or 13.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
So use the adapters if you can.
They're very cheap and very good for making your fence work better.
Now, I've seen a lot of people say that you need to get the fence charger that has, what do they call it, the weed eater feature. It'll eat through weeds, and that if you do that, you don't need to weed whack underneath of your fence.
Usually the weed whacker type chargers are the constant state chargers that put a strong voltage out all the time.
Oh, that's the ones we don't want. Yeah,
that's the kind you don't want.
So you need to look at the fence charger, and if it has what they call a weed eater feature, you need to make sure it's not a constant.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
The higher the joule rating, the better the fence will resist encroachment by weeds. Grass goes up on the bottom strand, and it sucks the energy from your fence and provides short circuits all the way down the fence. And so the stronger the charger, the more power it will be forcing the voltage down the fence that can overcome those little weeds pulling at it, and the better your fence will work. And so if you have a very small charger, light weeds or grass growing on the fence will make the rest of your fence downstream not quite as effective.
Now, I've seen a lot of chargers will have recommendations on the species that are appropriate. This charger would be good for goats and sheep. This charger would be good for buffalo. What is different in those chargers that make it appropriate for different species? Is it how strong a jolt it gives? Is that what makes them different?
That's a very good question. The chargers aren't animal specific, but the animals only need so much shock to be controlled. A pig is very sensitive to voltage shocks, very much so. So you don't need a huge joule rating to control pigs. On the other hand, a buffalo has a thick hide, and they're kind of, I would say, they're the smartest beast out there, but they're thick and they're kind of strong. And so you need a higher shock, more oomph to make them mind the fence. And so different animals are rated different ways for different chargers. It's just another way of explaining how strong a charger is.
That makes sense. Now, how much will it cost on an average month to run an electric charger?
About the same as a 100-watt light bulb.
Is that right?
That's about right.
I just thought it'd be higher than that.
It's not. It's very low cost, and when people hear that, they say, "Oh, that's not a problem." You leave a light bulb going in the barn; it's about the same as running your charger.
Huh. I always thought it was more than that.
Who'd have thunk?
There's another myth. What other myths did we miss? Are there any other myths that people need to know about?
Sure, there's lots of them, but probably the most important is make sure you have a good ground for your system. That's most important no matter whose fence you buy. Good grounding makes your fence work better.
All right. Well, on that, we're going to leave it go. Thank you so much, Jason, for participating in this 4-part series. As we said, you can hear all the parts at horsetipdaily.com. It's fieldguardian.com. We highly recommend it. Our fence was so easy to put up. They made it so easy. We called in with a couple of questions we had, and it was just Jennifer and I with my brother helping out a little bit. But we put up about 2 acres of fence, and we got it done in probably 3 full days, with everything, putting in the posts and the whole works. So we had
well. Everything but the horse in 3 days.
Yep, it really went well. Matter of fact, all the neighbors were going, I can't believe how much you guys have gotten done. And we kept going, we lived in Pennsylvania where they had shale, where it took us a day to put in one post.
Well,
this is easy.
That's more a reflection of our fitness level.
Yeah, and being 50 years old, not 20. Well, thank you so much, Jason. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, there you go. That was a lot of fun and informative to boot. I really learned a lot about fencing. Don't forget to support our sponsors here on Horse Tip Daily, because they're the ones that make these podcasts possible. Today's podcast has been brought to you with the generous support of Kentucky Performance Products, makers of Summer Games and Summer Games Plus electrolytes. Ask for Summer Games at your local tack and feed supplier. Your horse will thank you. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show. You can subscribe to all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. You can also listen to the shows right on Facebook. The player's right there every day. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.